The story of the Black Codes and Jim Crow laws is a dark and complex chapter in American history. These laws were a series of oppressive measures that stripped African Americans of their rights and enforced a system of racial segregation. Today, we journey through the convoluted and shady history of these laws that spanned from the aftermath of the American Civil War to the Civil Rights era, leaving a profound impact on the nation. In 1865, the United States found itself at a crossroads. The Civil War had ended, and the period of Reconstruction began, marking the reintegration of Confederate states back into the Union. One of the most significant milestones of this era was the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, abolishing slavery and liberating around 4 million African Americans in the South. President Abraham Lincoln envisioned a brighter future for these newly freed individuals. In his last speech, he even suggested the idea of suffrage for African Americans who fought for the Union. Unfortunately, just days later, he was assassinated. His successor, Andrew Johnson, held a different view. Though a Southerner who remained loyal to the Union, Johnson prioritized states' rights and strongly opposed extending suffrage to African Americans in the South. This stance would set the stage for the introduction of the Black Codes. The Black Codes emerged as a means to maintain white supremacy and control over African Americans. These laws targeted those without employment or permanent residence, imposing harsh fines and forced labor. Economic opportunities for African Americans were also limited. States restricted property ownership and barred them from certain professions. African Americans were even banned from carrying firearms, testifying in court, or marrying people of other races. These oppressive measures led to outrage in the North. In 1866, anti-Black riots erupted in Memphis and New Orleans. In response, congressional Republicans proposed a civil rights bill that President Johnson vetoed. Congress, in a historic moment, overrode the veto and passed the bill. The 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution granted equality before the law and extended voting rights, respectively. The passage of these amendments, along with the Reconstruction Act of 1867, protected African Americans and their property, establishing military oversight in the South. These measures were victories for civil rights, but when Reconstruction ended in 1877, many gains were reversed as the Jim Crow laws took hold. The Jim Crow laws were named after a black minstrel show routine and aimed to marginalize African Americans through strict racial segregation. These laws regulated every aspect of life, from public transportation to parks, effectively creating a divided society. African Americans were banned from white neighborhoods and, in some cases, were not allowed to enter entire towns and cities. The signage declaring African Americans unwelcome served as a stark reminder of the racial divide. Initially confined to rural areas, Jim Crow laws began spreading to urban centers as more African Americans migrated there. This expansion solidified the divide across the country. In 1896, the Supreme Court legitimized the Jim Crow laws with a separate but equal doctrine from the Plessy v. Ferguson case, allowing segregation to persist. The first major blow to Jim Crow laws came in 1954 with the landmark Supreme Court case Brown v. Board of Education. The court ruled that segregation in education was unconstitutional, sparking a wave of change and serving as a catalyst for the civil rights movement. This victory signaled a shift in the legal landscape, and activists began to push for further reforms. The civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s and 1960s, fueled by influential leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and the courageous actions of individuals like Rosa Parks. Through nonviolent protests, sit-ins, and marches, the movement sought to challenge and dismantle segregation and discrimination. One of the most iconic moments in the movement was the 1963 March on Washington, where King delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. This event demonstrated the unity and determination of those fighting for equality and civil rights. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 marked a major victory, as it legally ended segregation and discrimination enforced by Jim Crow laws. This act prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, fundamentally changing the legal landscape for African Americans. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 followed, aiming to remove barriers to voting for African Americans. These legislative victories were significant steps toward equality. Yet the struggle for civil rights continued and remains a central theme in American society today. The story of the Black Codes and Jim Crow laws is a sobering reminder of the struggle for justice and equality in America. Though these oppressive systems are now part of history, their impact remains today. Thank you for joining us on The States Untold, where we dug into the dark history of the Black Codes and Jim Crow laws, an era marked by oppression and resilience. These laws left an indelible mark on American society, shaping the nation's long struggle for equality. As we reflect on this past, the lessons learned guide us toward a more just future. Stay with us as we continue to uncover the untold stories from across the nation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The States Untold for more eye-opening episodes. See you next time.